Hi, I'm BECMI Berserker and welcome to the 9th episode of my Let's Roll series, which is focused on the generation and progression of each core BECMI Dungeons and Dragons character class. In this episode, however, we're venturing into the second of two optional character classes, and that is the Mystic. If you don't know what BECMI is, I strongly recommend you watch my BECMI playlist, link on the screen, where I dive into many aspects of the game and make the case why I think it's the greatest version of the Dungeons and Dragons game. Before I continue with exploring the generation of a Mystic, I should first explain a few things about this class. I've been showing you only 7 core classes in most of my previous Let's Roll videos, with the Druid video being the first exploration of the optional classes. Well, the Mystic first made an appearance in BECMI in the Master Rules boxed set, released in 1985. Although framed as an NPC class, there were also rules for allowing players to become a Mystic and access all the interesting abilities it came with. Without getting too much into the detail of this class at this stage, the Mystic is effectively the BECMI Monk. Monks were a class available in the first edition of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and were essentially an unarmed fighter, with superior control over their physicality, being an obvious representation of the mystical martial artist from the Far East. In the Master Rules, the monk was introduced as the Mystic, probably to feed the growing interest in Far Eastern culture at the time. Films like Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon and the American Ninja series of the late 80s were incredibly inspirational to geeky gamers wanting to play those kinds of characters in D&D, so BECMI fed this demand with its own spin on the monk class. An interesting side note is that Advanced Dungeons and Dragons abandoned the monk class with the release of 2nd edition in 1989, whilst BECMI updated and strengthened the design of the Mystic for its inclusion in the release of the Rules Cyclopedia in 1991, as one of 2 optional classes. As I roll up a Mystic, I will explore the character class as presented in the Rules Cyclopedia, but I will make a reference to the Master Rules here and there to point out a difference or a change in development. Once generated, we will level the Mystic up to examine how the class has progressed and what's changed. Although I am using the Rules Cyclopedia, I will not be including the skills rules and the weapon mastery rules in this video. Apart from the fact I cover these in detail throughout the Let's Roll series, I really want to focus in on the abilities the Mystic gains as I progress through this video. But just to say, a Mystic is just as able to obtain skills and weapon mastery as any other human class in the game. By the way, if as I go along you wonder what the generation of the other classes look like, I've put a link to the Let's Roll playlist in the description for you to follow. But for now, let's dive into the Mystic. We are told that Mystics are monastic humans that live in establishments called cloisters. Therefore, Mystics can only be human, and they follow a strict cloistered lifestyle. This is so they may gain complete mastery of their bodies. Now, I just want to make a quick reference to the Master Rules here in respect of this cloistered lifestyle. Within the Master's DM's book, we're given extensive detail on what makes up the leadership and organisation of a cloister. But what's interesting to note is that this is based on a Benedictine monastery at around 800 AD, so perhaps a little at odds with the assumption that Mystics are more related to influences from Far Eastern monastic cultures. In respect of martial arts, the class description does go on to advise DMs that they could lean into the philosophies of Chinese, Japanese or Korean sources, but what's implied is that the DM could choose a discipline from any part of the world to transplant into their campaign. The text in the Rules Cyclopedia makes no reference to the example of the monastery given in the Master Rules, but it also doesn't explicitly direct that Mystics should be based on Far Eastern cultures, although in my opinion it is heavily implied. In short, putting all this together means that your Mystic can be from any type of culture, using whatever martial art you deem appropriate. They are an individual studying self-improvement and discipline, and that's all that really matters. So, moving on. Despite Mystics being human, they have a maximum level limit of 16, compared to the standard 36 for all other human classes, making them the only level-capped human class. There are variant rules in the Rules Cyclopedia for removing this limit, but for the sake of this video, I'll stick with the core rules. In addition, Mystics are the only human class to have a minimum requirement for ability scores. Specifically, they must begin with a score of 13 or more in both Wisdom and Dexterity. This demonstrates how exceptional the Mystic class is. Mystics may use any weapons, but specialise in unarmed martial arts, which also affects their ability to avoid being hit and their movement. I'll focus on this a bit later in the video. When it comes to armour, Mystics are unable to wear any. This extends to magical items that offer protection. When it comes to gaining experience points from treasure, Mystics may only receive XP from wealth they have donated to the needy. A tenth or tithe of all their treasure must be donated to their cloister. Therefore, a mystic lives quite an austere lifestyle, eschewing material goods for self-improvement. A mystic must be faithful to the oath of their cloister, or face expulsion. An expelled mystic cannot gain any more levels, loses 1 level a year, and may not join any other cloister. Mystics are typically lawful, although they may be any alignment. What's interesting to note is that we're told that mystics are utterly devoted to the mystic discipline, which is neither good nor evil, which is an indirect reference to BECMI's 3 alignment system being fluid in this respect from lawful to chaotic. A high-level mystic may build their own cloister and attract followers after reaching 9th level, commonly referred to as name level, but access to levels 10 and above is severely restricted. A mystic achieving this level must defeat one already at that level in unarmed single combat. The subsequent levels up to 16th would also be achieved this way. I'll go into this in a bit more detail later in the video. Well, that's the basics of a mystic, so let's roll. Here's the front half of my character sheet. Let's stick the important information about a mystic on the right here, so that we can refer to it as needed. I must ensure that all my rolls allow me to be a mystic in the first place, so both my character's wisdom and dexterity scores must be 13 or above. We are told that a mystic has 2 prime requisite scores, which are strength and dexterity, but it is only the strength score that affects the amount of experience points my character earns. As stated here in the text I have highlighted, a mystic gets a 5% experience point bonus if their strength is 13 or above. However, should their strength be 16 or above, their bonus is 10%. Right, let's put the Dungeon Master's name here, and the class and level we're going to demonstrate. Let's also assume that the scores I've rolled favour this class, like so. Okay, so now it's time to work out the bonus or penalty adjustment for each ability score. Let's get that chart on the screen. Okay, I get +2 adjustment for my strength, but the adjustment for my intelligence is 0. I get a +1 for my wisdom and a +2 for my dexterity. I also get a +1 for my constitution, but my charisma unfortunately gives me a -1. Living a cloistered life has given this mystic a certain reclusiveness and awkwardness around other people. Each of these adjustments will affect my character's interaction with the world, as described by the highlighted text. We won't get too much into these unless they specifically impact my mystic's generation, but I will immediately change my mystic's armor class, as that dexterity score of 16 will reduce it, which is a good thing, from a natural armor class of 9 to 7. Right, so my mystic is shaping up nicely, but how many hit points do they start with? Well, looking at the information in my table, a mystic's hit dice is 1d6. Going strictly by the BECMI rules, a character does not always get maximum hit points at first level, so I roll my 1d6 and get a 5. I add 1 to this roll because of my constitution adjustment, making my actual hit point total 6, as shown in the hit points box. The next thing I need to do is add my mystic's saving throw scores to this sheet. In BECMI, saving throw scores are determined by class, as shown on this table, so all we need to do is transfer the numbers for level 1 onto my sheet. So Death Ray or Poison is 12, Magic Wands is 13, Paralysis or Turn to Stone is 14, Dragon Breath is 15, and Rod, Staff or Spell is 16. Let's now turn to languages. As mentioned in my previous Let's Roll videos, each character starts with at least some understanding of what's referred to as the common tongue. As you can see on this languages table, due to my mystic having an intelligence of 9, they have just 2 languages. These will be common, and the second will be my mystic's alignment language, which I will elect to be lawful. Let's add these to the sheet, along with my mystic's alignment of lawful. Right, so my mystic is almost there in terms of the front half of this sheet. The combat section at the bottom is the same for all starting character classes, and just relates to the number needed to hit a particular armor class. But my mystic has a +2 strength adjustment to hit with melee weapons, and a +2 dexterity adjustment to hit with missile weapons. Let's amend this hit roll table to account for this. Of course, these numbers may be further impacted by magic or weapon mastery adjustments. But for now, let's give my mystic a name. Unfortunately, the BECMI rules never offered us an example name for this class, as it was not included in the original red box set, so I'm going to have to make one up. We were also never given an image of a mystic apart from Terry Dykstra's illustration in the Rules Cyclopedia, which heavily suggests a Far Eastern culture. As I've always been a big fan of the novel Shogun, I'm going to go with the name of a great character in that book and choose Mariko, along with that sketch by Dykstra. Mariko knows nothing about her past or family, having been a member of the cloister from an early age. She's heard silent whispers from the masters that she is one of a disgraced family placed here for protection, but protection from what she does not know. All she has as any connection to her past is a piece of jewellery, a jade butterfly, which was always pinned to her kimono as she was growing up, but she now wears confidently in her thick black hair. So meet Mariko of the jade butterfly. What the significance of this butterfly is, Mariko does not know, but she is conscious it draws the stares of visitors to the cloister, and a fire is growing within the young woman to go beyond the walls of the well she has known all her life to seek answers. Okay, Mariko of the Jade Butterfly is shaping up to be an interesting mystic. Now it's time to turn over the sheet and insert some further details, specifically information regarding Mariko's special abilities. Before I put them here, let's look at what these are in more detail, so that my recording of them on the sheet will make more sense to you. What's referred to as special abilities actually consist of numerous ability types. These include access to fighter combat options, which at first level only consists of the set spear versus charge maneuver, as mystics do not gain the lance attack. In addition, at higher levels, these fighter combat options do not include multiple attacks, although we'll talk more about that in a moment. For more information about what fighter combat options are and what they do, then please see my Let's Roll video on the fighter class. In addition to the fighter combat options, mystics gain certain thief abilities, specifically find traps, remove traps, climb walls, move silently, and hide in shadows. The chances of success for these are the same as a thief of the same level. Crucially, players of mystics are faced with a choice in whether they take the skill of acrobatics and play an acrobatic mystic or just a standard one. This is essentially a mechanic to resolve movement such as jumps, tumbles, catching oneself from falling, balancing, etc. Whatever acrobatic feat you could imagine, I suppose. We are told that this ability is an improvement over the basic acrobatic skill one might obtain as part of the generic skill system in the rules cyclopedia, as it covers everything possible within that skill, but mystic acrobatics enable them to cross any type of terrain or obstacles, such as impeding low walls, fences or furniture, without penalty to their movement, and they can also use this skill to cross enemy lines without breaking through, such as vaulting over them somehow, which reminds me quite a bit of the tumble skill in 3rd edition. To perform a successful acrobatics maneuver, a mystic must first calculate their chance of success, which is to roll under 3 times their dexterity score added to twice their level on a D100. Kind DMs may just require a successful dexterity check, but this removes the potential for self-improvement to influence the check, which in my view is central to the mystic's way of life. Now, I did mention that the player faces a choice when it comes to this ability. This is because, if you elect to have the acrobatic skill, all XP gained is with a minus 20% penalty, compared to a mystic who does not study acrobatics at all. This is to account for the extra time and development needed for a mystic to improve and go up the levels. Whilst this might seem harsh, it's probably due to the use of language here and the word penalty. The net effect is that acrobatic mystics just need to gain more XP than standard mystics, and if you created an XP table specifically for acrobatic mystics, psychologically it might not hurt so much. So I've done it for you here, just by dividing each level's XP requirement by 0.8 to be the equivalent of a relative 20% decrease in XP gained. Now I know my maths has been off in the past, so let me know in the comments if I've cocked it up again. The main event when it comes to special abilities is of course their martial arts and mystic abilities. These centre on improvements to the mystic's combat abilities, defences, and manipulation of their environment. These deserve much more attention, so let's dive into the subject before we return to the character sheet. As a mystic goes up the levels, their martial arts improve, in terms of their ability to avoid being hit, how quickly they can move, how quickly they can hit, and what they hit as in terms of a weapon type, and the damage they inflict with their unarmed attacks. In addition, they may receive a special mystic ability every 2nd level. As you can see on this table, mystics start at level 1 with an armor class of 9, just like every other class. However, by the time they obtain 16th level, their unmodified armor class before dexterity modifiers is -6. Remember, mystics cannot wear armor or other protective magics, so this is all they can rely on to avoid attacks, but also remember that it can't be taken away from them, it's innate. Again at 1st level, a mystic's speed is 120, but by the time they reach 16th level it's 320, with an encounter speed of 100 feet or yards per round, depending if you're indoors or outdoors. Although mystics begin with a single attack per round, their martial arts allow them to gain an extra attack at 5th, 9th, and 13th levels, so mystics do indeed gain the ability to inflict multiple attacks, albeit not as one of their fighter combat options. What's key about this is that mystics always get this extra attack, whereas multiple attacks under fighter combat options can only be made if a modified roll of 2 is needed to hit a target's armor class. There is no such restriction for the mystic, so a 5th level mystic would get 2 attacks per round, whatever the target's armor class. This is for any melee attack and not restricted to just unarmed attacks. The power of a mystic's unarmed martial arts increases as they climb the levels, but not just in terms of damage. Mystics also gain the ability to harm creatures who require weapons of a particular enchantment, as shown in this table. The damage, of course, also increases from 1d4 per hit at 1st level to 3d12 per hit at 16th level. The mystic's strength modifier would be added to this to determine the total damage. Finally, there is a special mystic ability that is received every 2nd level. Let's focus in on these a bit more before putting all this detail on Mariko's character sheet. There are 8 mystic abilities, the first being obtained at 2nd level. These are Awareness, which simply means that a mystic is only surprised on a roll of 1 on a 1d6. Then there's Heal Self at 4th level, an ability that works just once per day and can only be used on oneself, but can heal the mystic of 1 point per level of experience. Speak with Animals at 6th level allows for conversation at any time with any animal, be it normal sized or giant. Resistance is gained at 8th level and is a powerful ability, enabling the mystic to take half damage from any spell or breath weapon, or quarter damage on a successful save. This is a permanent and non-magical ability. The Halfling is the only other class to gain both these resistances, but that's on first obtaining 2,100,000 experience points. The Mystic only needs 120,000. Speak with Anyone is achieved at 10th level, which basically speaks for itself. At 12th level, Mind Block is gained, meaning the Mystic becomes immune to ESP, Charm, Slow, Hold, Quest, and Gaius spells. Basically, they become incredibly resistant to enchantments. At 14th level, the Mystic gains Blank Out, which is a very interesting ability. The text states that, once per day, the Mystic can make their presence disappear for 1 round per level, and that no creature, living or dead, is aware of them. There is no saving throw against this. What's interesting is that this is not invisibility, so any spell detecting invisibility would not see the Mystic. I would extend that also to True Sight, as the description of that spell doesn't seem to extend into what Blank Out is. In effect, it forces anyone or anything in the vicinity of the Mystic to act as if they're not even there, rather like a Jedi mind trick. The only thing that might stop this ability reaching the end of its duration is that if the Mystic decides to attack. Finally, at 16th level, there is Gentle Touch. Once per day, on a hit, the Mystic may bestow the effects of a Charm Person, Cure All, Death, Quest, or Hold Person spell. The effect lasts for 24 hours, except, of course, for death. There is no save against this effect, but it will only work on creatures of the same level as the Mystic or below. So as you can see, a Mystic has the potential to be very powerful indeed, which might explain the class being capped at 16th level. Before we go back to the character sheet, I just wanted to acknowledge a change from the Mystic that was presented in the Master Rules. Within that boxed set, Mystics chose one of 4 martial arts styles, described as offensive, wrestling, defensive, and throwing. The concept was that each style had both strengths and weaknesses when facing opponents using different disciplines from your own. This diagram, based on the elemental dominance diagram you may also be familiar with, was used to demonstrate which martial art was dominant over the other, but it essentially meant a dominant style might inflict double damage, whilst a weaker style might only do half damage. This is an interesting system, especially given that it was only relevant when mystics fought each other, so it would be used rarely. However, I think it would become more relevant for high-level mystics who are having to battle their way from 9th level through the hierarchy on their way to 16th. Having to face mystics with martial arts that are dominant to your own would make for interesting matchups. Therefore, although nowhere near a deal-breaker in terms of its exclusion from the rules cyclopedia, I think I would include this element from the Master Rules. All it would mean is for the player to declare their martial art type, and then it becomes relevant when fighting other mystics. It could even prompt some roleplay in getting players to actually describe the maneuvers they're making when doing all these martial arts. Well, those are my thoughts, but what are yours? Okay, after all that, let's return to Mariko's character sheet. We can see that I've inserted all the information I've just covered. We can also see that Mariko is an acrobatic mystic, so she will receive a minus 20% penalty to experience points earned, or just require more experience points to achieve each level, whichever way you want to look at it. The thief abilities are as a level 1 thief, and the martial arts and mystic abilities have been copied from the table in the rules cyclopedia. I'm not going to delve into equipping our character or determining their wealth, as it won't really add to the information I'm trying to relay here. So that's Mariko of the Jade Butterfly. Mariko all but failed to convince her master to let her explore the world beyond her walls, but it was only during a raid against her cloister that the master hastily helped her to escape into the night. The young mystic is far from naive and strongly suspects the raid was looking for her. It was written all over her master's face, so much so that he even tried to hide Mariko's Jade Butterfly from view, but that was a step too far. The butterfly is Mariko's identity. She could not hide it. And as she headed west, so as not to be spotted against the rising sun, Mariko spared a single tear as she watched her fearsome comrades repel the raiders. She hoped the cloister would still be standing if she returned, but for now she was free to seek answers. Who was she? Who wants her dead? And most importantly, why? Mariko's journey took her to distant lands where the people looked different and talked strange. She met strange characters of many races and even made the odd friend or two. But what this land needs is some discipline, some focus on self-belief, purpose and control. Mariko currently has 240,000 experience points and is 9th level, and contemplates these thoughts as she stares across Mirror Bay in the great city of Specularum, watching the ships that have come in from Minrathad being unloaded. So before Mariko seeks out some land to build a cloister in the known world, let's have a look at her character sheet to see what's changed. First, let's look at her saving throws. As Mariko is now 9th level, we can refer to the correct numbers on this table and copy them to the sheet, like so. Next, we'll update her hit roll chart, again consulting the numbers appropriate to her level, which she shares with the fighter, and updating them on her sheet. When we account for Mariko's strength adjustment for melee and dexterity adjustment for missile, her THAC0 drops to 13 for both. Let's change these on the sheet. We also need to update Mariko's hit points by consulting the Mystic's hit dice information again. As you can see, Mariko gets 1d6 hit points per level up to 9th level, and she may apply her constitution adjustment to this total. However, she will not gain any more hit dice beyond 9th level, instead receiving 2 hit points per level up to 16th. I roll 8d6 for Mariko, and then add another 8 for 8 levels worth of constitution adjustments, getting a total of 43. Adding this to Mariko's current 6 hit points makes a grand total of 49 hit points at 9th level. Not bad. Let's update the hit points on the sheet here. There's one more thing to update on this part of the character sheet, and that's Mariko's armor class. Remember, a Mystic's armor class improves as they level. Looking across at this table at level 9, we can see that Mariko's unmodified armor class would be 1, but given that her dexterity score offers her a +2 armor class modifier, that would actually mean her armor class is -1. That's unarmored and without any magical items. Let's change that on the sheet here. Now let's turn the character sheet over again and update the items there. Let's focus on Mariko's fighter combat options first. At 9th level, Mariko gains 3 more fighter combat options. These are Smash, Disarm and Parry. Again, if you wish to learn more about what these are, please check out my Let's Roll a Fighter video. Mariko's acrobatics skill check will also have improved due to her higher level. Let's also account for that here, showing that she now has a 66% chance to carry out an acrobatics maneuver successfully. Turning to thief abilities, we just need to update these to reflect a 9th level thief, like so. So now to update the martial arts and mystic abilities section. We'll consult that table again and read across to obtain the information we need and update them here. So Mariko now moves like the wind, hits with tremendous force as if a +2 enchanted weapon, and she even has resistance to spell damage and breath weapons. Okay, that's 9th level Mariko as an aspiring master or mistress of her cloister. But she's not stopping there. She wants to become the most learned martial artist in the world, and that means seeking out those with similar knowledge and defeating them in single combat. As alluded to earlier, progress for a mystic beyond 9th level is restricted. We are told that there are 7 each of 10th to 12th level mystics, 5 each of 13th to 15th level mystics, and 3 16th level mystics. This is caveated by the fact that, if your campaign world is particularly large, you can apply this methodology to continents rather than the whole world. When a mystic achieves 10th level, they must locate and challenge one of the 7 10th level mystics to single unarmed combat. The loser drops back to 9th level, adjusting their experience points to be 1 off 10th level. We are told that the losing mystic may not issue another challenge until 3 months have passed, so clearly reaching the highest levels of mystic power is extremely difficult. What I couldn't see stated in the rules is whether this is the format for achieving every level beyond 10th to 16th. I would take it that it is, as it makes sense to do so. I do wonder if anyone has experience of playing a mystic at this high level. It would be great to understand how this part of the process worked in your campaign. So Mariko has worked her way through the ranks of the Mystic Masters, defeating some, losing to others, but ultimately winning against all, and in the process learning the secret of the death of a family to the Chaotic Master, Space Hopper, who she defeated to achieve 16th level. With the permission of the Grand Duke of Garamakos, she has built a cloister not far from the city of Specularum, and has developed a new discipline based on her mastery of life and adversity, the Way of the Butterfly. So let's take a look at 16th level Mariko. As you can see, she has reached a maximum of 63 hit points. So not bad, but she still needs to make sure she's not caught unawares. What you might notice is how inferior her saving throw scores end up being compared to all other characters at their maximum level. I think this is an attempt at balance. The 16th level Mystic is extremely resistant to physical attacks, with their high natural armor class, and only receiving half or even quarter damage from spells and breath weapons. In addition, Mind Block makes them resistant to being controlled, so better saving throw scores than these would make the Mystic even more difficult to affect. So I think these scores are a way of representing a weakness in their discipline. The glaring omissions compared to the 1st edition AD&D and modern day monk classes are resistances to poisons or disease, so clever enemies of Mariko might want to exploit this. In terms of Mariko's combat ability, her unmodified hit rolls for both melee and missile combat are again not as effective as other characters of maximum level. I know not all characters might reach maximum level, but what I'm trying to point out is that there is no further improvement to the Mystic's ability to hit things after achieving these scores, unless of course you use the variant rules and take them up to 36th level. Turning to Mariko's acrobatic skills, she now has an 80% chance to be successful in any acrobatic maneuver, so still plenty of room for failure. In addition, her thief abilities are good, but not great. As for her martial arts, her armor class is now a huge -6 or -8 due to her dexterity bonus. She can move 100 feet per round during combat, and she hits like a +5 weapon for 3d12 damage. With 4 attacks per round, that's a potential damage output of 56 hit points per round, when including her +2 strength modifier. Very respectable. When it comes to mystic abilities, Mariko now has access to all of them. Once a day, her gentle touch can kill creatures of 16th level or lower with no saving throw, and she can disappear from the radar at a moment's notice, leaving her enemies stupefied and wondering if she was there at all. So there you have it. Mariko may be of the Way of the Butterfly, but she stings like a gargantuan sturge in heat. Be respectful, and you may be happy when she ignores you. Well, that's been an enjoyable walk through the Mystic. I haven't examined it in years, and I was reminded of so many things. There seems to be a lot of scope for fun with this class, but what was apparent to me was their lack of reliance on magic. Where other classes require magic to augment their effectiveness, a Mystic develops their abilities innately. This means they may never lose them, and they can appear extremely mundane when they are anything but. This is a theme that has been carried through into the Monk class of future editions, which I have to admit has been a favourite of mine. What's strange is that I've never actually played a Mystic in BECMI. I feel like I missed out. What's your opinion on the Mystic class? Did you introduce it at the release of the Master Rules, or was it when the Rules Cyclopedia was released? And what do you think of the introduction of opposing martial arts I spoke about? It would be great to know. Otherwise, I hoped you enjoyed this 9th episode of Let's Roll. Please give it a like if you did indeed like it, and please hit the subscribe button if I've earned your future attention. If you'd like to thank me further, you can buy me a coffee, link on the screen or in the description. Otherwise, I'm BECMI Berserker. Keep making your saving throws, and I hope to see you back here soon.